Welcome all in this particular lecture of biophysics. In this lecture, what I am going to discuss is that we can estimate the size of a DNA by using the random walk model that we are continuing in some earlier lectures. So, we will use the concept which we have studied in the earlier lectures, and what we will do, that is, we are going to estimate the length scale of a particular DNA. So, to estimate this length we need a particular concept. So, this concept is about the persistence length. So, what is persistence length? The persistence length is a measure of the length scale over which a polymer remains roughly straight. With the random walk model that we have discussed earlier, we can describe the structure of long polymers whose contour length capital L is much larger than this persistence length epsilon p. So, what is persistence length? Which is the length over which the polymer is essentially straight. In particular, the persistence length is the scale over which tangent-tangent correlation function decays along the chain. Now, what is known as the correlation function? So, that I will discuss now. So, you see this particular figure, and in this particular figure a curve has been drawn. So, this particular curve basically corresponds to a particular polymer. Now, an alternative view of the persistence length is to think of biological polymers from the standpoint of the geometry of space curves. So, we can look the polymer as some space curves. There are a number of different ways of characterizing the mathematics of the space curves. One way is via correlation functions, which measure the extent to which the geometry of one part of the polymer is correlated with some other part. So, this is the particular space curve. To be concrete, let us consider a space curve in parametric representation given by the vector Rs. So, this is a particular space curve where S is the arc length parameter. So, what is S? You see in this figure, this one is the S. So, S is a measure of the arc length. So, S is the arc length parameter. The function Rs is a rule that assigns a position vector for every value of the arc length S. So, what is Rs? Rs means it will assign a position vector for every value of the arc length S. Such a configuration is shown in this particular figure. So, if this is the arc length, so S is the arc length here, and this is a particular space curve corresponding to a polymer. The question we pose concerning a given space curve is that nature of the tangent-tangent correlation function defined as GS. So, what is GS? GS is the correlation function, and it is T, and in bracket we are writing tau plus S dot T tau. Our notion is built around the unit tangent vector Ts. So, the vector that we are defining inside the average. So, this T means the tangent vector, and the tangent vector are unit. So, these vectors are unit tangent vector Ts, which is defined. Now, Ts, if we say that is what is Ts. So, Ts is defined as the unit vector tangent to the curve at arc length S. So, what is Ts? Ts is a particular tangent vector drawn at the arc length S. You see that this one is a Ts. If S is the arc length starting from the origin, you see, so starting from the origin, S is the arc length. So, at the point S, what we are doing, we are drawing at first a perpendicular, then we are drawing a tangent to it. So, Ts. So, Ts is the tangent vector at the arc length S. This tangent correlation function as defined by this above formula is thus for a purely mathematical notion and provides a measure of the relation between the tangents at arc length tau and arc length tau plus s. So, you see inside the bracket we have written tau plus s and here we have written tau. But what is the definition of Ts, where Ts is any tangent vector? Ts is a tangent vector which has been drawn at the arc length s. So, T tau plus s is a tangent vector which has been drawn at the arc length tau plus s. And what is T tau? T tau is a tangent vector which has been drawn at the arc length point T tau. So, T tau plus s dot T tau, that is defining a correlation. But to define the correlation, we have to make the average. You see here in the definition there is average. When the correlation function is 1, that is when the value of the GS is 1, the tangent vectors are parallel. That is when the dot product is like this, that is we know that is magnitude of the vectors, both vectors are 1. So, 1 dot 1 into cos theta, but when theta is 0, when theta is 0, then the value of the GS will be 1. So, when the angle between the tangent vectors is 0, or rather we can say that they are parallel, then the value of GS will be 1, then the correlation function is 1. So, when the tangent vectors are parallel, GS will be 1. Now, you see that there is a particular figure drawn here, illustration of the spatial extent of a bacterial genome, and that has escaped the bacterial cell. So, after escaping from the bacterial cell, this is the structure of the bacterial genome. The expanded region, that is we have selected some portion and expanded here. So, this particular scale in micrometer scale, you see this particular distance is 1 micrometer and a selected portion has been zoomed here, and this particular length is about of 50 nanometer. Now, in the zoomed portion, you see that is the DNA is like a polymer chain, and there are several arrows here. So, you see this is a small arrow, this is again a small arrow, this is a small arrow, white arrows are there, this is white arrows, these arrows are there. The expanded region in the figure shows a small segment of the DNA and has a series of arrows on the DNA, each of which has a length equal to the persistence length. So, each of the length of the arrow, that is equal to the persistence length, and in order to give a sense of the scale over which the DNA is stiff. So, in this particular length the DNA is stiff. So, these are basically the persistence length of the DNA. So, after zooming a particular portion of the figure, it has been shown that these are the persistence length, and you see that is the this length scale is very small, because you see and this figure has been drawn with a scale of 50 nanometer. This is a 50 nanometer scale, and this particular length scale is 1 micrometer. We labeled the persistence length with small white arrows, each with a length equal to that of the persistence length of DNA. These arrows reveal that on the scale of tens of nanometer, that is when the scale is very small, of the order of tens of nanometer, the tangents are correlated, while on the scale of microns they are not. So, if we look at the figure in a very small length scale, then you may find that is two arrows, suppose the consecutive two arrows, they may be parallel. So, if the two arrows are parallel, then we can say that is the value of the correlation function GS will be 1, that means they are correlated or they are parallel. So, this can be seen only in the very small length scale, but if you view the picture in very large scale, then we are not able to see the correlation. That means they are uncorrelated in nature. The persistence length is obtained by averaging over all configurations of the polymer. Qualitatively, we see that the actual numerical value of the persistence length depends upon the stiffness of the filament. Microtubules and DNA do not have the same persistence length, because in the definition of persistence length we said that it is the length over which the filament is rigid in nature, with DNA characterized by a persistence length of roughly 50 nanometer. So if you consider the persistence length of DNA, its length scale is 50 nanometer, while microtubules have a persistence length of the order of 6 millimeter. To compute the persistence length, we average over all configurations of the polymer, with each such configuration assigned a Boltzmann weight that depends upon the bending energy. We have already defined the correlation function, the tangent correlation function. It may be defined as GS is equal to TS dot T0. Suppose we are starting from 0, so TS dot T0. It is useful to think about its limits, that is, what is the limits of the GS. First, since the tangent vector of is unit length, so G0 is equal to 1. If you set S equal to 0 here, then here it will be again 0. So T0 dot T0, this will mean that the value of G0 is equal to 1. On the other hand, if you set the value of S very high, for S much larger than the persistence length, so in that case what will happen, we expect the two tangent vectors to be independent of the others. So they will be uncorrelated, they will be independent of the others, and the value of the GS will tend to 0. A simple function with these properties in an is an exponential function. We can say that is GS is equal to minus e to the power S by epsilon p. So what is the implication of this exponential function? As we have said, that you see that the values of the correlation function decays from 1 to 0, that is decays from the maximum to minimum value as we are changing the position in the polymer. So we can see that for very small value of the polymer length, the tangents will be correlated, but if we move to very high value, then what will happen, there will not be any correlation between the tangents, and in that case the correlation function, value of the correlation function will be 10 to 0. So to signify this effect, we can write the correlation function in some exponential in the form of exponential function like e to the power minus S by epsilon p, where epsilon p is the persistence length. There is a particular proof of it, but we are not going to prove this now. But we have to keep in mind that is the correlation function can be approximated as an exponential function. Now to see the idea of the persistence length more clearly, we imagine a polymer as a curve in three-dimensional space. At each point along the curve, we can draw a tangent vector that points along the polymer at that point. As a result of thermal fluctuations, the polymer meanders in space, and the persistence length is a length scale over which memory of the tangent vector is lost. So due to the thermal fluctuation, what will happen when we will move from one position to the other, and if you consider those two particular tangent vectors, so you will see that the memory of the tangent vectors is lost, and there will be no correlation between the two consecutive tangent vectors. From a mathematical perspective, we can write the tangent correlation function as Ts dot Tu, where Ts is the tangent vector evaluated at a distance s along the polymer, and the notation, this bracket notation is an instruction to average over all the configuration. So Ts and Tu corresponds to two different tangent vectors for the arc length S and U. The persistence length determines the scale over which correlations in tangent vectors decay through the equation Ts dot Tu is equal to e to the power minus of S minus U divided by epsilon p. So this correlation function can be approximated in the form of this particular exponential function. But the point is that although we have approximated the correlation function in terms of the exponential function, but the fact is that this particular exponential validity is not universal in nature. For small enough separation, that is when the difference between S and U is very small, only then the exponential law is expected to hold. A good example of a long flexible polymer is provided by genomic DNA of viruses such as lambda-phage with a contour length of 16.6 micrometer. So this is the value of the L, that is the contour length, and this should be compared with the persistence length epsilon p is equal to 50 nanometer of DNA at room temperature and solvent conditions typically of the cellular environment. So its persistence length is of the order of 50 nanometer. Since the persistence length is the length over which the tangent vectors to the polymer backbone becomes uncorrelated, we can think of the polymer as consisting of capital N, that is equal to L divided by epsilon p, connected links that take random orientation with respect to each other. So what we can think, if we consider the total length of the polymer is capital N, and if we divide the polymer in a series of segments, and those segments have the persistence length value of epsilon p, then L by epsilon p will be capital N. So there will be capital N number of segments. L is the total length and epsilon p is the persistence length. So capital N number of segments will be there. So these N segments can take random orientation with respect to each other. This is the logic that gives rise to the freely jointed chain model of the DNA. So this particular model of the DNA is known as the freely jointed chain model of the DNA. Now, as already discussed in the freely jointed chain model, polymer conformations are random walk of n steps. In the previous lecture, I already discussed that is how the chain model of the polymer can be thought as a random walk of n steps. And with the random walk model, we have already evaluated different parameters such as the end-to-end length and the distribution of the end-to-end length capital R. The length of the step is the Kahn length. So we have considered the whole polymer as n steps of random walk, and each step is known as the Kahn length, which is roughly equal to the persistence length. Now we can establish the relation between the persistence length and the Kahn length invoked in the random walk model. To make a more precise determination of the Kahn length, we calculate the mean squared end-to-end distance of an elastic beam undergoing thermal fluctuations and compare it with the same quantity obtained for the freely jointed chain. The end-to-end vector capital R of a beam can be expressed in terms of the tangent vector Ts. So the end-to-end vector capital R we can write in this way. So if ds is a small length element and Ts is a tangent vector, and if the whole length of the beam can be thought of as L, then capital R, that is the end-to-end distance, that can be written as 0 to L ds into Ts. As a result, we can write R square average, that will be average, and inside it will be 0 to L ds into Ts dot 0 to L du into Tu. So we have expressed the right hand side in terms of two parameters U and S, and here this one is the average over all polymer configurations. Now using the average of the tangent correlation function and the value which was estimated in equation 8.24 means this equation, that is Ts dot Tu is equal to e to the power minus s minus u by epsilon p. So what we can derive from equation 8.26 is this one, that is R square is equal to 2 into 0 to L ds, and you see this particular limit, this is from s to L du e to the power minus of u minus s by epsilon p. Now the above result is obtained by splitting up the integration over the L by L box in SU space into integrals over the two triangles, one with s less than u and the other with s greater than u, which have equal contribution. That is why there is a factor 2. But here we are not we have not derived the result. We can discuss the particular mathematical details in some later lecture, but right now we are taking in hand, that is this particular equation 8.27 can be derived from 8.26. Further, this equation can be written in more simplified form, that is in the limit of L, capital L, when it is very large than epsilon p, and then this particular r square that can be written in this way, that is 2 into 0 to L ds, and this s to L, that limit can be written as 0 to infinity dx e to the power minus x by epsilon p. So it will result as 2 into L into epsilon p, but here what we have done, we have made a change of variables. You see there is u minus s, and we have made a change of variable, that is x is equal to u minus s. Then we have evaluated this integral, and this particular integration will result in the value of 2L epsilon p. Now you see earlier, that is if you have listened to my earlier lectures regarding the random walk model, and then in the beginning what we have derived, that is r square is equal to n into a square. So here you see that is r square is equal to 2L into epsilon p. So previous result, that is r square is equal to n into a square, that can be written as r square is equal to a into L. Why a into L? Because you see capital L can be written as n into a, because n segments are there, each of length a, that is why, and that particular value r square is equal to n into a square, we can write as a into L. Now you see that is if we compare these two equation, that is r square is equal to 2L epsilon p, this equation, that is r square is equal to a into L, then we can write that is a is equal to 2 into epsilon p. So Kern length a is twice the persistence length epsilon p. This relation is very important, that is Kern length a is twice the persistence length. Now what we are going to derive, that is how big is a genome. A simple estimate of the size of the polymer in solution can be obtained using the end-to-end distance formula, that is what we have derived, that is r square is equal to 2L into epsilon p. So we can write that is root over of r square is equal to 2L into epsilon p. So the size of the polymer in solution can be obtained using this particular relation. But now what we will discuss about a important parameter which we have read in mechanics classes, that is the radius of gyration. So what is radius of gyration? The radius of gyration is perhaps a more precise measure of the polymer size and is defined through the expression rg square is equal to 1 by n sum of ri minus rcm square. Roughly speaking, it measures the average distance between the monomers and the center of mass of the polymer, where the center of mass rcm is defined as 1 by n, I is equal to 1 to n ri. With this definition of the radius of gyration in hand, a simple relation between the radius of gyration, contour length L and persistence length epsilon can be derived as, I am not going to discuss the derivation, but we can show that root over of rg square is equal to root over of L into epsilon p by 3. So this relation we can derive. We may write this particular result in an alternative form in terms of the number of base pairs in the genome of interest by noting that genome length L is almost equal to 0.34 nanometer into n base pair, where this is the number of base pairs. So if you express the formula in terms of the base pairs, then the same formula can be written as root over of rg square is equal to 1/3 of n bp into epsilon p. So this has the same formula has been written in terms of the base pair. Now you see I will show you a graph where the horizontal axis is the number of base pairs and the vertical axis is the rg, that is the radius of gyration. Size of genomic DNA in solution. So this is the size of genomic DNA in solution for different cases. For example, plot of the average size of a DNA molecule in a solution as a function of the number of base pairs using the random walk model. So this particular graph has been framed by using the random walk model, where the value of the Rg has been calculated by the formula 8.33, and this particular value of the Rg for different cases has been plotted. The labels correspond to particular chromosomes for viruses, bacteria, yeast, flies, worms and humans. So you see the graph. So these are the number of base pairs and these are the value of the Rg. Now using this formula, this is either using equation 8.32 or 8.33, we can estimate the size of the genome. So I will discuss only two examples. Suppose that some viral genome has leaked from what is apparently a ruptured capsid. So that genome has been leaked, and we will assume that this DNA in solution has adopted an equilibrium configuration. So if it is in equilibrium configuration, then we can estimate its size. The genomes from T2 and T4 are very similar in nature, with a genome length of roughly 150 kb. So it is in kilobase. Now recall that the persistence length is almost 50 nanometer. Epsilon p is equal to 50 nanometer. So if you know the persistence length and if you know the number of base pairs, then from the equation 8.33, that is where the value of the Rg can be calculated from the number of base pairs, you can use this particular equation, and from this equation you can see that the value of the root over of r square g, that is the radius of gyration, is almost 0.9 micrometer. In the second case, we assume that is the size of the DNA cloud surrounding a bacterium and that has lost its DNA. In this case, the genome length is substantially larger than that of the T2 fudge discussed in the earlier example. Namely, its base pair is 4.6 into 10 to the power 6 base pair. So this is a number of base pairs. Now once again we can use equation 8.33, and using the value of the persistence length as 50 nanometer, we can calculate the radius of gyration is 5 micrometer. So you see that this value is very higher than the previous value. So so what we have learned in this lecture, that is by using the random walk model, we can estimate a rough estimate, basically as it is an approximated formula. So we can say that is we can roughly estimate the size of the genome. And the content of this lecture has been taken from the textbook Physical Biology of the Cell, written by the Rob Phillips, and I hope you have understood the topic. And for further understanding, I will request the viewers to go through this textbook, and I also thank you for listening this lecture.